What's up guys, it's Ivan. In this video, I want to show you how to make a simple video slider. So just like in the videos on navigation bars, I will give you the code. All you have to do is copy that code I give you, paste it into your JavaScript HTML element in your ClickFunnels, and you will have the image slider. And I will simply tell you what to change if you want to change any parts of it. Obviously, you'd want to put in your own pictures, right? You don't want to use the pictures that I'm using. So I'll show you where to go to do that and change any other things you want to change. So let me show you what I mean by simple image slider. So if I click on here's our diabetes page. So ignore these. These are just the pictures I use, but they have nothing to do with that. Okay, so I can just delete all these pictures, and that's still going to show. But basically, this is the type of image slider I'm talking about. And you can change the width, you can change the height, you can change how many pictures you want and whatnot, and I will tell you how to do that. All right. So, and then it went back to the first page. Okay, so let me show you how you can change that. I'm going to go to edit page. And here's the code that I'm going to give you. I made it easier for you, just like I did on the navigation bars. I said what you can change, what you can't change. So anything, anything that doesn't have anything written there, you can change, right? Anything that has do not change is a crucial component of making the slider work. So don't really play around with that. So for example, these parts you don't want to change, these parts you want to change. Okay, so let's first get down to the basic, to the skeleton of the video slider, which are the pictures that we've put in. So here at the very bottom, as you can see, I have my image sources. So I've just literally included my images. So what I've done here is actually I have uploaded pictures onto the ClickFunnels server, and then I've simply copied this URL. I went here, scroll down to the bottom, and I changed this and I pasted that code here. Right? That's exactly what you do. So any pictures you have, I would recommend just upload them to the ClickFunnels server, make them secure, because you want secure images, right? You want it to be, at the top of your site when it loads, you want it to say secure server, right? Why not? And then just paste your images there. Simple to do. Now for this slider to work, we need to be very specific with our height and width of your images. So ideally, of course, you want all your images and all the height, right? All the image height and all the image width to be the same. So if it's not, you can adjust it here. So as you can see here, after every image, I've added a little field for you here to say width or height. Just change it to whatever you want to. If you want your slider to be, if I change all of these to say 600, right? Obviously, I'll have to change that as well, and I'll get to that later on. But if you want your image to not be this size, if you want it to be bigger, right? This is the height, this is the width, you can do that, okay? You can make it 700 by 400, whatever. This is where you would change it. And of course, if you want to maintain a nice image slider, you'd want to do the same thing for all of them. So after you upload all your images here, literally copy paste the images there, the image URL, and change these to make them consistent, okay? That's about the only thing you have to do here. I've created these IDs. You can change it to whatever you want as well. I just made them easier for me to see. So like this current field corresponds to that particular section that the images scroll to, and the total field shows kind of how much space do we want for our total images to be. Because basically what's going on here, as we create this image slider, is you have a bunch of pictures that are standing side by side next to each other. They're literally side by side. And what we're doing here is we're actually using animations. If you've seen our previous video on animations and keyframes where I explained that, we're literally translating the image, and that's from transitions and the transformations, but we're literally translating the image to the left, right? Translating all the images to the left, and that's how they kind of shift. And this is why we have this overflow hidden, which allows our secondary images, our other images that we don't want seen in this current field spot, they're hidden. We don't see them. If it's not hidden, you will see all of the images, okay? And you can test it out yourself. I'm not going to waste time doing that, but delete overflow hidden and see what happens, okay? So keep the position relative. That is important because we need everything, all the pictures to be relative to each other. If we put absolute, it's going to, well, test it out yourself. It's not going to look good at all, right? The image slider is going to be on your elements and whatnot. You'll have to do some extra work there. Keep that at relative. Keep the float left. This will basically make your images go from here to here, right? Because they're starting off on the left side and then they're going, from here to here to here. So just leave that the way it is. Okay, so let's go over this thing. So this is this current field, what I've named it, and again, you can name it whatever you want to, but this is basically the width of your field here. So our image, and you know what? Let me just yeah, I'm just gonna keep this window open. So this is that current field that I'm talking about right here. So even though the image size is 400, if I make my current field, for example, 200, then you will not see the full image. The full image will still stay in the right dimensions, but you won't see the full thing because that current field will only occupy 200 pixels or whatever it is you specify, right? For us, we made it match our picture size because we want to see the full picture. So the point I'm trying to get to come across is if you change the width of your picture here, make sure to change the width over here as well. It has to be the same. It has to be consistent. Otherwise, you're either going to not show a part of a picture or you're going to show a part of the next picture in that slide. Okay, we don't want that. So that's that. Margin right, margin left, auto. Basically, I centered it. If you delete it, your images are going to be like on the left-hand side, right? Again, test it out yourself. But your images will be on the left-hand side. They're not going to be centered. In this example, I want them to be centered. So I said margin right, auto, margin left, auto. If you want it somewhere in between, just play around with the margins as you saw in our video on margins, right? Just add like margin left, margin right, whatever. So that's that. Okay. So now we come to this part, and then I'll explain to you the keyframes because this is extremely important if you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or however many pictures you want. Okay, this will be important for you guys to understand. So let me talk about this first. So the total field is basically how many, like what's the size of all these pictures together. So we have 5 pictures, 5 times 400 pixels, 2000, right? That's what I have here. If I say anything more than that, that's okay, right? Because still all the pictures are still gonna show. But if I say anything less than that, if I say 800 pixels, guess what? Not all the pictures are gonna be shown, right? It's gonna show 400 because basically what we're doing in keyframes, as I mentioned, is we're shifting the pictures, right? We're shifting them to the left and the pictures are actually there, but we're just hiding them, right? And that's how this slider works, right? We're just shifting the pictures. But basically you wanna make sure that this width corresponds to the size of your current field here, width, times the number of pictures that you have. So if you only want 4 pictures, delete this whole thing. Just delete that, right? Literally do that. That's it, okay? And that's what you would do. But then you would need to say, 400 times 4 is 1600. So then we would need to change that to 1600 pixels, okay? So let me put that back in. Okay, so that's that. This is, again, if you've seen our animation video where I talk about like how to get the animations going, we just created the animation name. That's important because when we do keyframes, when we actually do the sliding effect, we need a name. So that's the name. Again, name it whatever you want to. I named it slider just because it's intuitive, because it's a slider, right? Iteration count, that basically means it's going on forever. Again, watch the video, see what other options you have, but change it as you see fit. This is the animation duration. So this is actually how long do you want the whole cycle to take place of your picture. So if you have 3 pictures and you want each picture to stay up there for 20 seconds, you may want to put it like a minute, and maybe like 66 seconds, right? Because maybe like 2 seconds for the shift or whatnot, right? But basically like 20 seconds each. So you would want to make it like a minute with a little bit more, right? For the change. So that's that. Now, in regards to the keyframes, this will be important because we need to make all our picture be seen evenly. And you have several options here. You can say, shift left by 100%. And what that does is that shifts the picture entirely to the left by 400 pixels. You could say that. And left, by the way, is the exact same thing as translate. So in our video on transformations, we've been talking about, scaling, rotations, and transformation. This is the same thing. We're just shifting it left as though it's a translation. So that's exactly what this is doing. You can say 100%, or you could say 400 pixels, for example. And you can say go left. You could say 400 pixels, and that's going to give you the exact same effect. So let me explain a bit how this works in regards to the keyframes, because this is what gets the slider actually going, right? This is what actually gets it moving. So in this case, I have 5 images, okay? So what I did here was I said, well, I want each slide to play 100%, divided by 5 is 20%. So I want each slide to be up and running 20%, okay? However, we have to keep in mind that we need to put in some time for the actual transition, right? Because you can't just have an image and then suddenly another image. There needs to be that time in between for the images to actually move, right? In this case, translate. So we need to have time for that. So instead of all of my images, staying there for 20%, I need to deduct a certain amount. So maybe 2%, right? In which case, all of your animations will stay up for 18% of 20 seconds, right? 18% of that. And the 2% will be spent doing the animation. So over here, what I have is I've actually done 4%. So I said, let me make 4% of the time be spent for animation. So 4% of 20 seconds, which is like a bit less than 1 second, right? So approximately slightly less than a second it will take to shift from one picture to the other. So as you can see there, it shifted, right? And that's where you see this change take place. You see here? Do you see that 4% difference? So from 0 to 16, the image is whatever it is, right? So here. So 16% of my time, 15% of 20 seconds is spent on having the picture there. So, do the math. 0.16 times 20 in this case, right? It's going to be 3.2. So all of my images are up for 3.2 seconds, and then they shift. Then they move for 0.8 seconds, okay? And as you can see here, from 16 to 20, so that's 4% of my 20 seconds is spent moving. And this is the time it takes to move it, right? So from 0 to 100. This is that animation and that transition in particular, right? In this case, it moves from 0 to negative 100% in that 4% time period. And then you just repeat it. So again, 16% of the time you want your second picture to be up, right? Assuming you want them all up evenly. So 60% again, 3.2 seconds you have right here. As you can see, that slider stays on minus 100%. It's going to stay at that point for 16% of your time, which is 20 seconds. And then, as you can see here, in the next 4%, it's going to shift another 100%. So you have an image here, it shifts 100%. Then, in that time period, it's going to shift another 100%. Now the total is minus 200%, or if you want to use pixels, in this case, it's going to be minus 800 pixels, okay? Reason why I say 100% is because if I change this, I don't have to go back and change all that as well, okay? So it's a bit more convenient for me, but do whatever you want to. And then the pattern just keeps repeating. So as you can see here I have my 16% of my 20 seconds, the image is there, and then I have my 16% there, 16% there, right? And then here is when the shift, the transition takes place. So for you, the reason why I spent all this time explaining it to you is because if you want to have 4 or 3 or 2 or 5 or 6 or 7 images, or if you want to change the timing of those images, you think maybe the transition of 0.8 seconds is way too much or it's way too little. This is how you would change it. Instead of having it 4% here, you would maybe, maybe you would make this 12% and you would say 8% of your time will be spent transitioning for each picture. So 8 times 4, 40%, 32, right? I don't know my math. So, question for you. If you have 3 pictures, what would you do? How would you set up your keyframe? Well, let's do one right now, okay? So let me delete, or actually, yeah, I can delete it, okay? So I'm going to delete these 2 entirely, and suppose I want only 3 pictures. And by the way, if you want to add more, you literally take that, you press Control C or you copy, right? You click copy. and you paste it. That is it. So if you want to add them, just do that. If you want to delete it, just delete it. It's very simple. I try to make it as easy as possible. And I mean, this is basic HTML, right? So it's simple that way as well. So there you go. So now I have 3. Now this won't really look that good. So now if I click save, and I observe it's going to look a bit awkward because now it's going to be uneven. So you have this picture, and then it moves to this, right? Again, because our keyframes are set at certain time intervals, but now it goes to 0 because there's no picture. We just deleted it, right? So let's head in here, and now we need to adjust this a little bit. Now, in this example, we had 5 pictures. So we had a picture shifting here, and then here, and then here, and then there, right? Further and further and further. You can't do that here. You only have 3 pictures. So our keyframe slider percentages of it going left should cap out at 200%, right? One is at 0, that's the first picture. One is a minus 100. The last one is a minus 200. That's it. We should not go to 400 if we have 3 pictures. So let's do an example here. So if you have 3 pictures and you want all of them to show evenly, let's say 100 divided by 3 is about 33%, right? So about 33% of this 20 seconds. And by the way, again, you can change this 20 seconds, right? Doesn't have to be 20 seconds. Whatever you want the full cycle to last, whatever time period, you change it. So about 33%. So that's 33% per image and translation because we need to also move it as well. So how about we do this? How about we say 30% of our image will be, 30% of the time will be spent moving the image, or 30% of the time will be spent at that image, and 3.3% of the time will be spent shifting it, okay? So that adds up to 100%, right? Because each image needs to shift and the total cycle should last 100%. But we want all of them to be equal, right? That's the key part, is we need them all equal. So we need to do some little math. So 100 divided by 33 is 3, and that's what we have here. So 100 divided by 3 is 33, right? Other way. So then we would need to change this out a little bit. So let's go back and play around with this. So in this case, we wouldn't say 16% because now we only have 3 pictures. So we're going to say, as we said, 30%. And then the transition. So this is when our transition is going to take place. We're going to say 33% here. So what I said here is 3% of your total duration of our 20 seconds should be spent moving, should be spent transitioning, right? And in this case, compared with the previous one, I think you should see the transition happening a little bit faster, right? And then for another 30%, so we should put this at 63, for another 30% of the time, again, because we want them all equal time showing and equal time moving, right? So we're gonna, over here it's 30%, and over here we should do 30%. So at this time period, we want the picture to stay exactly the same. So we're not gonna change this because it should still be, if it moved 100, we want it to stay there, okay? And over here, let's change this again to then 66%, and this is when it should change, right? So in that time period is when you should see the shift happening from it being here to moving even further, okay? And now let's make this, so it should stay there for, again, 30% of the time, it should stay there. And then we're gonna make it go to the last one, we're gonna say 100, and we're gonna make it go back to its original position. Okay, so this, what I've done here, this should make your transition and your 3 pictures move evenly. So let's see if that worked. So here we have 3. Now we're only expecting these 3 pictures here. And again, I can delete these and the pictures are still gonna go through, so you don't have to keep the pictures up there. You can delete them, okay? So let's see, that's picture 2. Picture 3, and as you can see, the transition is a bit faster, but it's gonna go back after the 30%, right? It's gonna go back to its time. So that's basically how the keyframes work. And if you want to, if you want to make the transition a bit faster, you can just decrease the percentage of time that the that the picture stays there, and increase the percentage of time that the picture takes time to transition, okay? So that's basically how you do it. It's a really simple slider, but it works. It gets the job done. Again, you can increase the width, you can increase the height, anything like that. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'll be happy to help you out with your problems or sliders if you encounter any. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video.